The movie starts with a young lady, Dominika Yegorova, sitting on her bed. She is a beautiful and famous ballerina at a successful theater. She has a sick mother which she deeply cares for and spends most of her time and money on. On a special occasion, Dominika is ready to perform on a stage when she meets with her uncle, Ivan Yegorova, who praises her for her work and beauty before introducing her to Dmitry Ustinov as a friend of his. They take a picture together, but the perverted man, Dmitry, uses the opportunity to caress Dominika's back as no one was watching. Meanwhile, a United States federal agent, Nate Nash, is getting ready to meet with his asset, a spy on Russian ranks, tonight. Immediately after they meet, some police officer is about confronting Nate's asset, so he creates a diversion by pulling out his gun and firing 4 consecutive bullets. Subsequently, Dominika is already performing on stage with a fellow male dancer. As the two went on dancing before the crowd, the male dancer unintentionally stepped on Dominika's leg, severely ripping it apart and causing her to go unconscious. Later she's taken to the hospital for surgery. As for Nate, he's being pursued by the police officers, but he runs into a United States federal location to be saved. The next morning, Ivan Yegorova, who is a deputy director, meets with General Vladimir Korchnoi, where they discuss the event that took place last night. The general tells Nate is a secret spy agent working in the United States, and whoever he met was a mole in the Russian government which they needed to apprehend. 3 months later, Dominika now support herself with a walking stick. When she gets home, her uncle Ivan is already visiting her mother. She goes in to make tea with Ivan, deciding to help. Ivan tells her, "We create our faith and there were no such things as accidents." He gives her a present in an envelope and tells her all he wanted to do was care for her and her mother, and she should come visit him whenever she pleases. Later, Dominika opens the envelope and finds a recorder and several photographs exposing her career-ending injury wasn't an accident by the male dancer that night. Instead, it was instigated by a fellow ballerina named Sonia and the male dancer, who turned out to be lovers. This breaks her heart. She decides to take revenge on their heads for ruining the one thing she loved so much, dancing. She sneaks up on Sonia and the former male ballerina when they are having a steamy hormone sandwich in the bathroom and beats them to near death with her walking stick. After, she reports to the police on phone and goes home, where she finds her mother on the floor sobbing because no one was there to help. Later she meets her uncle Ivan to help her and her mother. Ivan proposes that she meets with Dmitry Ustinov, the man she was introduced to the night before her leg accident. Ustinov is a gangster, and since he's attracted to Dominika, Ivan wants her to meet with him in a hotel. Her mission was to exchange his phone with a replica Ivan would give her. Dominika had no other choice than to do it for her mother's sake and to avoid being thrown out of her apartment, while Ivan promises to take care of her mother as he would offer family love. In a few weeks she goes to the hotel. Her room is paid for and the dress she was expected to wear was taken care of. She goes to the bartender to get a wine when she sees Ustinov. Ustinov comes down to greet and keep her company. He asks why she was in an expensive hotel as him, so Dominika lies that she needed help as her injury deprived her from her dreams. She takes him to her room and wishes they would be alone from Ustinov bodyguards. Ustinov commands her to undress herself while he plans to take advantage of her body. In the process, Ustinov is killed by an unknown person who sneaks in unnoticed through the window. This masked person takes Dominika out through the back unaware and drives her to somewhere unknown. This person is Sergei Motorin, an SVR operative authorized by Ivan. Meanwhile, watching through the surveillance, the general thinks Dominika has seen too much and should be gotten rid of. But Deputy Director Ivan, Dominika's uncle, has other plans for his niece. He goes to her and offers her a new life. As her old one is gone, he offers to take her to an institution which would teach her how to use her seductive prowess and she could become a better asset for the state. He also informs her that he wouldn't stop her from disapproving, but her life and safety would no longer be under his protection. Dominika tells her mother she would be leaving because of her uncle. Her mother understands and cries, hoping and advising Dominika not to give in everything she has for her uncle. After a while, she's taken to a remote place where she would be trained to become a sparrow, a group of people specially trained as human weapons for the Russian government. The first person she talks with is a lady known as Matron. The lady shows her to her room and explained Dominika needed to work hard because the remaining inmates were military trained. The matron takes her first class, which deals solely on psychological manipulation through sexual exploit. She and another boy is asked to come forward and take off their clothes. The boy, being military trained, doesn't hesitate to, while Dominika refuses to. The matron tells Dominika her body belongs to the state and she should use it whenever the state asks of it. Meanwhile, Nate Nash is taken back to Washington, D.C., where he is suspended indefinitely, and the operation with his asset, which was named Marble, would be taken up by someone else. Although Nate tries to explain he had known Marble for 3 years and Marble wouldn't want to work with anyone else, the panel says it's not of his business anymore. Back at Russia, Dominika is trained how to pick through locks, detect people's heat with thermal light, and even how to seduce. In one of Dominika's classes, she makes an enemy with a boy. Later a girl in her class is told to get on her knees and suck the eggplant of a convicted man after she classified the man as a degenerate. But the girl bursts into tears instead as she couldn't suck his smelly balls. In the United States, Nate is given a second chance. He would be flown to Budapest to contact Marble, his asset, because Marble doesn't want to work with anyone else besides him. The matron shows Dominika and her mates some soldiers that had been deployed overseas for a year. She wants them to make the soldiers comfortable. Dominika takes one of the youngest soldier to a room where she puts on her seductive skills. Later she is watched by her matron, who happens to put a camera in the room to know the progress of everyone. While she is cleaning herself, a boy from earlier pushes her from behind as he tries to eat her wet berries. She retaliates by knocking him down hard with an object she screwed from the wall. As for Dominika's uncle, Ivan, he and the general is aware of Nate's whereabouts in Budapest, so they plan to prepare for his arrival. Later Dominika is reported to the general, where she is asked why she assaulted a cadet. She replies saying she owes him nothing and her juicy wet berries is for the state, not for a mere cadet. Later, while in class, she is called to the desk when the guy she assaulted in the bathroom walked in. The matron makes Dominika give the guy what he wants. She gets undressed and waits for the guy to go inside her, but he is incapable as his cucumber refuses to stand. She replied that all the guy needed was power. After the show, the matron tells Dominika she would be going back to Moscow because her superiors needs her services somewhere else. Few days later, when she gets home, she visits her mother first. A telephone rings and she is called to a well-furnished restaurant. Turns out it was her uncle calling to send her on her first mission. Her uncle believes there is a CIA agent who teamed up with a spy in the Russian authorities. He gives her the picture of the CIA agent and her mission is to establish a close contact with the agent so they could take out the Russian traitor. Dominika hates everything, but she needed to suck up to take care of her mother. She goes to Budapest with her new identity as Katerina, also stays with a former Red Sparrow agent, Marta Yelenova. Marta makes it clear that none of them should get into the other's business for any reason. She offers to change Dominika looks. Dominika afterwards goes straight to register in a pool where Nash swims most of the time after collecting intel from her Volantov, a higher-end SVR operative. After their swim, Nash talks to Dominika and offers to buy her a drink, but she refuses his kindness. She claims not to know him. He then shows his superiors Dominika real name written on her form he stole at the pool. He believes she's an SVR agent and wants an opportunity to investigate her. Later she goes to an event at the American embassy. She sees Nash again, and this time she's a bit friendly to him. Nash wants to see her again, so she makes a dinner date the next night. When she gets home, she sneaks through Marta's secret files before Marta comes home. Marta has been assigned to buy classified intelligence from a US Senator Chief of Staff. Marta tells her about her current negative report sent back to her uncle. Dominika gets upset and follows Volantov. She ends up in an exotic nightclub where she teases him into sending a good report about her, and she would eat his microscopic pencil all night, which pisses him off, so he hits her without knowing she's recording him. She then threatens to ruin his job if he doesn't send another positive report on her. Meanwhile, Nash gets tired of waiting for her, so he heads home. Dominika hides and follows Nash to find out his apartment. She knocks on his door and she's offered a drink. He asks who gave her a black eye, to which she replied saying her boss, because she refused to give him her wet berries. He requests to know how she knew where he lived. She moves closer to him and tastes his saliva, and tries to collect info from him, but Nash is smart enough to let her off. The next day she goes over to Nash's apartment and begins to go through his belongings. She steals a cup with Nate's mouth print on it. When she gets home, her uncle is in her apartment. He said he dropped by on his way to a meeting and wanted to make sure Dominika was progressing in her mission. Dominika claims to be assisting Marta with her mission as well. Before Ivan leaves, Dominika steals his passport from his coat. After he's gone, Marta becomes furious with Dominika for trying to sabotage her mission and take all the glory. But Dominika pleads with her, saying she just needed to buy herself more time as she saw what she wasn't supposed to see, which was how the Russian government killed Dmitry Ustinov, revealing the high-level internal secret to Marta. The next morning she boards a train to Vienna, where she used her uncle's passport to open a bank account in Bank of Vienna. Meanwhile, Marta is offering a way to get rid of Dominika to Volantov. When Dominika gets home, she's pulled to the lifeless body of Marta by Sergei Matorin, the SVR agent from before. It's clear Marta was killed for sharing her classified mission with Dominika. Matorin warns Dominika about maintaining her secret and completing her mission, or else she would suffer same fate as Marta's, afterwards telling her to call the police. Back in US, Nash proves to his superiors Dominika is a sparrow. When the police is through interrogating Dominika, she's taken home by Nate. Nate then tries to convince her to become a double agent, telling her that he and the United States security would protect her and her mother. After their discussion, she heads to bed. In the middle of the night, she goes to Nash on the couch, and they have a wonderful hormone sandwich as a way of accepting his proposal. The next morning, after reconfirming Dominika is now siding with the US, Nash tells Dominika to continue her usual routine until he calls for her. Later sometime Nash's superiors strap Dominika to a lie detecting machine to make sure Dominika really is on their side. They ask her a few yes or no questions and later she tells them about a meeting planned with the US Senator Chief of Staff Stephanie Boucher who intends to sell satellite information to the Russian SVR for a sum of $250,000. She did this in order to really convince them she was really on their side. Few days later she flies to London to make the trade. Nash and his superiors watch Dominika's every move through a surveillance camera. Surprisingly, Dominika's boss comes in to see her. Dominika gets surprised and sends him away to another room. After the arrival, the US Senator Chief of Staff, Stephanie Boucher refuses to bargain with Dominika because she expected Marta. Dominika reassures her Marta was caught up and wouldn't be able to make it. After showing the Chief of Staff discreetly taken photos of her and Marta, Stephanie knows the repercussions of a picture like that leaked so she decided to comply with her. Dominika takes the Stephanie to a room where the trade would be carried out. In there Volantov waits for her. Dominika exchanged the money for the satellite information which were stored as discs. In order to prove her loyalty to the Americans, she had to replace the disc with fake ones without anyone finding out. After the exchange she leaves with her boss and tells Marta not to come out till after an hour. Meanwhile Nash goes back into the exchange room to collect the disc Dominika replaced and his superior get prepared to apprehend Stephanie for betraying her country. When Stephanie steps outside, she noticed she's been watched by few American agents. This makes her paranoid and she tries to escape but unfortunately there was a vehicle that unintentionally crushes her down. Secretly some Russian agent watched and noticed Stephanie before she was killed. Knowing their mission has been compromised, they report the case and Dominika and Volantov are recalled back to Moscow suspecting of tipping the Americans off. As Nash is about to leave the hotel he gets a call informing him about the death of the US Senator Chief of Staff also including the car carrying Dominika had changed course and is headed to Heathrow Airport. He rushes to meet up with Dominika but he isn't quick enough. Nash beats himself up as he knew Dominika's life is now in danger. After arriving in Moscow, Ivan collects the disc from Dominika's boss. Dominika is severely tortured and interrogated for days. Volantov was eventually killed for believing to tip the Americans off about Boucher, but Dominika is given a second chance by her uncle. Her uncle Ivan goes to discuss the matter with General Vladimir Korchnoi because he wants to grant his niece another chance. Although the general is not quite supporting Ivan's motion, he takes Ivan's word of definitely eliminating his niece if she betrays them. She is allowed to return to Budapest and other to extract the original identity of Marble. When Ivan returns home he sees Dominika waiting for him inside his sitting room. He is not surprised but tells her she would continue her mission. Dominika displays a bit of her prowess as she exchanged saliva with her uncle. If this was to assure him she wouldn't fail or play him, no one knows. Few weeks after she flies to Budapest where she sees Nash. Nash is very happy she's alive so they head home and have a couple shots. Dominika convinces Nash to send her and her mother to America where they can be safe. After talking they begin to feel each other's body asset. Suddenly Dominika awakens only to find Nash being tortured by the Russian SVR agent, Sergei Matorin for the identity of Marble. She pretends to assist Matorin in doing so but when he lowers his guard she kills him. But she is badly wounded during the fight. When she wakes up in the hospital, she decides to smoke but is shocked to the bone when General Korchnoi who has been working with Ivan reveals himself to be Marble who is the spy and is working with the American agents. He explains he was previously a very patriotic person, but he was misled by the Russian corruption. He knows he would be apprehended very soon so instead of dying in vain he instructs Dominika to reveal his identity to Ivan as Marble. This would undoubtedly make her take his place and become a national hero, but Dominika has everything planned out for herself. She takes blame for Marta's death making her detained in the Hungary police department just so she could request to speak with the Russian government about the identity of the mole, saying she wanted to be traded for the mole's real identity. Then after it is arranged she would reveal the identity of the mole. After the trade is arranged, Dominika exposes the mole's identity to Ivan's superior and he makes arrangements for her trade. Ivan's superior then calls for Ivan. Turns out Dominika has been orchestrating a series of countermeasures against her uncle Ivan. She frames him as being the mole instead, and using evidence she had been fabricating since her arrival in Hungary and also blaming him for tipping the Americans off during the exchange in London, the time she stole his passport and opened a bank account. She used this account to receive the money during the exchange in London. A few days later the exchange is carried out. Nate is curious on how she was able to figure out who the mole was and how he felt used and betrayed. To everyone's surprise Ivan is revealed to be the mole and is in a bad condition after severe torturing. He is brought forward as the mole and Dominika is taken to the exchange point. The Russian government doesn't see a reason the mole should live so they shoot at Ivan. Several weeks after Dominika is honored in a military ceremony conducted by the Russian government and General Korchnoi attends. As time flies by, Dominika is in her room when she received a phone call that plays her first ever solo stage performance piece, the one which only her and Nash knows about. She gives a faint smile and the movie ends here. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, and leave a like because it helps the channel. Thank you for watching.